Well, good afternoon and welcome to Newcastle-under-Lyme Council's Cabinet meeting. Welcome to Cabinet members and officers joining me today. Firstly, welcome to Gordon Borough. First meeting as our new Chief Executive. Welcome. And also to our Cabinet members, I'll go through our list of Cabinet members. We've got Craig Scalding, who's for Leisure, Culture and Heritage. Jill Beeson, for Community Safety and Wellbeing. And Councillor Dave Hutchins, for Sustainable Environment. And Councillor Andy Fear, for strategic planning, and I'm council leader Simon Tagg. So we'll got no apologies for this meeting. Any declaration of interest? Right, not seeing any. Okay, item 3. There's minutes of our previous meeting. They're attached on page 5 to 10. Can we read those as a correct record? Thank you. And item 4 is our first item of business, which is the Wallace Quarry odour issues. We've got a report that goes on in the usual format. And they always say at this point we've had numerous, now probably over 2 years worth of reports. First agenda item for every cabinet meeting is Wallace Quarry. It's still an issue that's massive for our local communities. And as we'll find out, the odours have increased and complaints have increased. But I'm going to hand over now to Gordon, who's going to introduce the report, gives an update on where we are from our last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Rena. This report in relation to the continuation of the operational impacts of Wallace Quarry follows the format of previous reports. In terms of the data, the report provides an update over the last 3 months from April of this year to date, particularly focusing on data since the last Cabinet Committee in June 2024. In summary, in relation to odour complaints, these peaked in February, followed by a downward trend through March and April. However, in May, there was an upturn in odour complaints, followed by a further reduction in June. It should, however, be noted that in June, the number of complaints were above those reported in 2022 and 2023 for the same month. There have been 11 odour events in June, where over 10 complaints have been received in a day, so as per the odour event definition. I think particularly to note, Cabinet, to date in July, there have been 102 complaints made. Again, that figure is higher than in previous years and is therefore naturally a concern to our residents, both in relation to operator behaviour, which has been exacerbated by the weather. Likewise, in air quality data, the complaints continue to correlate well to the AQ data of the World Health Organization percentage exceedance. The graph that you have set out on page 15 of the report back shows good correlation throughout the period. The percentage exceedance of WHO annoyance level per week is reported in the table on page 15, and that does show that the level of hydrogen sulfide higher at MMF 9 Gallagher compared to the other MMS. In respect of legal action, as has been noted, the council wrote to the Secretary of State on the 4th of July requesting permission in relation to legal proceedings. Previous to that, a response was received on the 5th of June, the Deputy Director for Resources and Waste at DEPRA to note that they'd be considering the letter of sought influence on the facts of the issue for the Environment Agency. So following the letter of 4th of July and the general election, a new Secretary of State has been appointed, Steve Reid, OBE, MP appointed to that role. The Leader of the Council then wrote on the 9th of July to Mr. Reid, urging quick approval of our continued outstanding request, which was made back in April, to bring legal action against the operators of Wallace Quarry. The Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs is considering all the relevant information and advice to enable him to take this decision, and that decision is awaited by the Council. Officers have instructed leading experts to prepare the expert evidence which has been requested by our council in the event that we receive required permission from the Secretary of State. And regular meetings will continue in the coming weeks on legal matters between officers and council to collect the evidence required to support any proceedings which may be commenced. I would also note the committee of inquiry established by this council has its first planned date for the 3rd of July, and another session on the 14th of August, where participants will be invited to refer full members. Finally, to note in respect to the Environment Agency, the EA have provided an update on long-awaited hydrogen H2S data adjustment. They provided an update on the 8th of July, advising the report must be reviewed and cleared by the Chief Scientific Advisor. The rest of the field will be agreed from ministers. The EA understands new ministers will want to review the report before publication, will look to be so at the next stage of the effort to prevent further delays. An update to be provided, we are advised on the website once available. I'll just turn now to the key performance indicators. So to note the KPI is Newcastle-under-Lyme for consumer action. Appendix 2 to report, and the KPIs the one expiring limited for April and May.
Thank you, Gordon. That last point on the corrective data from the launching equipment, that's eagerly awaited by local residents, and obviously appreciate the update. And I said they move forward and publish that as soon as possible to give people some reassurances. I think the whole issue of Wallace Quarry does go on and on and on, and as we've just seen from your report, from the complaints we've been seeing from residents over the last couple of weeks, it hasn't gone away. We have the suspension period by the Environment Agency where they require the operator to do certain works that we're going to, sort of solve the issue. Seems to not have happened. So I think we need to call on the EA again in full force to take action against this operator, because let's not forget, the operator causing this thing. We can blame the weather, we can bring other things into it, but at the end of the day, this operator is failing people Newcastle by not running this site properly. We'll open it up to cabinet members now for comments. Andy?
Yes, thanks very much. Once again, this doesn't make for particularly happy reading, I'm afraid that it's. I note that the figures for complaints have gone down a little bit, although I also note that at the very end of June, there's they're back up to nearly 300. And I also note with sadness, the Chief Executive pointing out quite rightly, of course, that although these figures are a bit of a roller coaster, that roller coaster is at a higher level than it's been for the past 2 years. So clearly this problem ain't going away. In fact, those figures suggest that, in fact, if anything, it's getting that little bit worse. So I agree with you, Simon, that this shows that the operator really isn't operating as they should do. I also agree that this has been a problem for us all the way through, hasn't it? That the people we employ to watch over these people, the Environment Agency, most certainly are not behaving as they should do either, and we need to see improvement there. I look with despair really about what they say about the data in the past, which we know is wrong. We've been told it's wrong. We're now told that there's no firm date being given for the publication of the algorithm to do this with. And then even more bizarrely, I think it says once the report is formally approved, and now we've already kicked that into the long grass because we have no firm date for this, that we can do some next steps, including the possibility of adjusting historic data. I mean, the possibility. We know this is wrong. So why aren't we just saying the adjustment, not the possibility? So in this respect, again, we've had the courage here with this group to criticise a national government of our colour when we thought that they weren't up to scratch in keeping things going. And I very much look to the new government to show that it's got a little bit more backbone than sadly the previous government had in this regard. Also, I think maybe we should be thinking about what was turned down for us by that previous government, wrongly in my opinion, a public inquiry, coming back into this so we can get to the bottom of how this awful mess started and what positive, definite actions we're going to do to stop it.
Thank you, Andy. Steve.
Yeah, without going over all the ground again. The one that's most interesting is the BPM. The best practical means is as a defence. Well, the best practical means might be used, but it's not working, is it? So if we talk about best practical means, the council can replace those things and doesn't sign any sign of going away in the near future.
Thank you. Not seen any more comments. There's just some up, I think, from our point of view as a council, as Gordon pointed out, the letter which I sent last week to the new Secretary of State, welcoming their position, obviously, but also to ask for a speedy resolution on the decision on this council taking that legal action, which we decided we want to do. We've gone through the relevant steps and obviously awaiting that confirmation from the Secretary of State so we can then press ahead with that, and there'll be more news on that in the future if that's outcome as we desire. Also, the scrutiny inquiry, the local public inquiry, which we committed ourselves to at council a few meetings ago, that starts next week. I'll be taking part in that as well. We've got the county council taking part. We've got the Environment Agency. We've got the health officials. We've also got members of the community, which I think is really important that we have those come in to come in and give a view from the distinct groups from other interesting parties as well, and also our new MP has been invited to come in as well. I think that's really what to say. So that is going to be a webcast, so that we can see it online as well. So it'll be open for the public to view. And I'd like to, wish the committee, a small member of group of members, chaired by Councillor Smith, who will then come forward with some recommendations to take back to full council. From that, I think they're going to get a breadth of views from various agencies and the public and other interested parties to be able to give us a good view on the way forward on what else we can do to help local residents on that. I think also I agree with your point, Andy, on the public inquiry. We have called numerous times as a council public inquiry. I think we should restate that today, and I want to amend the recommendations that we obviously note the report which Gordon has introduced. Again, I think thank our officers for their work that they've done on this, and to keep this issue really at the forefront of everything the council does to help its residents, and we continue to do that. But secondly, that we call again for that for the government to carry out or at least announce a public inquiry into the handling of the Wallis Quarry issue by the Environment Agency over a long period. All members agree that we do that. Very good. Okay, so with those extra recommendations Jeff has noted down, all agreed. Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 5, which is the Kidsgrove Shared Service Hub. Really pleased to bring this to the next stage of our plans for Kidsgrove that have been made possible by the town deal money from the previous government. That 16.5 million part of the 55 million that came in the levelling up funding of the previous government. And really pleased that we can now bring a paper forward on that shared hub for the centre of Kidsgrove. We know there's actions for the station. We've seen Kidsgrove Sports Centre reopened. We've seen the parks enhancements and the pump track. The BMX pump track is there and working and is well used. This is the next step to achieve what we want for Kidsgrove, which is starting to build that town centre up a bit, along with station improvements that will make a real difference over the next few years. Really pleased that the Kidsgrove Town Council have played a major part in this, as well as other partners. And the recommendation before us is that we obviously look to do the ground investigations to proceed to ensure that the site is suitable for what we want to get necessary insurance needed, and that we also do remediations if necessary, but also that we then move forward, I think, on this as our preferred site for the Kidsgrove shared hub. So those are the recommendations. Then for any comments from anybody? Anything, Craig, from your point of view as a Kidsgrove member? No. Yeah, okay. I think, okay, we'll move forward then with the recommendations as printed out, and hopefully the next stage of the regeneration of Kidsgrove Town Centre will begin once we have obviously sorted out the ground preparations and investigation. All agreed? Okay. That brings us then to our next item, which is the Brampton Museum application to the National Lottery Heritage Fund. And Craig's leading on this one.
Thank you, Aidan. I bring this report to update the Cabinet and to recommend approval of the application for the National Lottery Heritage Fund. And the Deputy Chief Executive and myself are authorised to accept this fund and utilise the funding awarded. The current funding is due to end in March of 2025. The bid that's going ahead now is for 98,000. The museum has a proven track record of successfully utilising funding funding, without which many of the projects that you've done over the last couple of years wouldn't be possible. For example, the museum played a massive part in the 850th year of the Borough, bringing a great deal of focus onto Brampton Park. They also delivered a 60% increase in footfall for the museum, which equates to 90,000 visitors. They set an unprecedented increase in income of 229%. That's compared to 2019 to 2020. To list a few other things, they won awards in the SCC Tourism Awards. They won for Ethical, Responsible, Sustainable Tourism Award. They won a bronze in Business Events Venue of the Year, Accessible and Inclusive Tourism of bronze. And the jewel in the crown really was the Small Visitors Attraction, which we're now in line for a national recognition on this award. Excuse me. With these achievements and growth, so a lot of this wouldn't have been possible without this funding. Part of the funding itself goes to increase the staff with the addition of an events manager, that we can't raise enough. Actually, she's done some fantastic work over the last year or two. And part of this funding will go to securing the role of the events manager, enabling us to drive the business forward and continuation of all projects and events. Over the last year, obviously it was a massive year, the 850th year. The feedback from the community was that 77% of the visitors enjoyed who attended the events, felt that the benefits from the event making them feel proud to be part of the Borough, it felt more inclusive. There was a positive impact on mental health with green space projects. And also there's 34,000 items there, some of which, a large portion of which were donated during this time to residents. So some of this funding would go towards conserving these artefacts. So basically, the funding not only secures the current staffing model, helps bolster the venue's finance, guaranteeing the continuation of the project, but it also helps reduce on the environmental footprint. Some of the funding will go towards low energy lighting, modifying taps in a way that they use less water and need to heat less water, and upgrading the installation system. So it goes a long way to working towards the net zero carbon targets. There is one other thing that can help with revenue. Some of the funding would be used as a friend of the museum scheme that they're going to be running, whereas every pound that someone is a member of the Friends of, it will match it pound for pound, so it can actually start growth on the funding itself. So basically, I hope that you all agree this funding should be welcomed, enabling venues to continue this fantastic work you've done for the community so far, and wish them good luck in the forthcoming awards for the SCC Tourism Awards.
Thank you, Craig. Looking at the on the museum and its obviously status in the borough, I think this will help you to push on even further. I think it is centred to when we think of the heritage, we think of the 850 celebration last year. The museum was centred to that, so it should be. I think it's really pushed on in leaps and bounds, and if we do get this funding, it will help us to do that even further. And I think, as you pointed out, the benefits of it and the track record of the museum is seen second to none over the last few years, and this will help us to I say, push on and do even more for the museum. And I think really, as you pointed out at the end there, about helping us to also to implement some of the green aspirations we have to make the museum obviously part of our net zero plans as well. Through that energy efficiency and other things is really important for our bigger plans for net zero by 2030 as well. Just two comments, questions. Steve, sorry.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, a couple of things. My wife and sister a couple of weeks ago went to see Councillor Beer talking about Romans in Staffordshire, and the room that he was in was absolutely sold out. people. So there's definitely a market there that we could use this space to make it. The other thing that if anybody's not been up the ground recently, I absolutely recommend the tree sculptures on there commemorating D-Day. It is absolutely fantastic. The work this guy's done. It's worth the trip. Yeah, there's a museum. Have a slice of cake, and that sculpture is actually brilliant.
Okay, yes, recommend that to anybody who were there for the opening of it on the day of the D-Day celebrations. A long time ago now, but back in June. I think just that comment about the talks, I think we see, not just because it was Councillor Andy Fear doing his famous talks about Rome and Newcastle, but I think most of the talks are really well attended. I just emphasise the point about that Friends group. It's sort of resurrecting the Friends group, and also, as you say, that pound subsidy, for what people are paying into it. I think it's really good. A lot of people want to sign up to the Friends of the Museum as well, and I think it's a really good scheme to take forward. That's certainly we want to sign up to myself and schemes up and running. So we've got the recommendation before us. Thank you for that, Craig. And we obviously approve the application and await the outcome of that. All agreed? Great, thank you. This is to our next item, which is the Peel Sustainable Solar Energy Business Case. Steve, leading on this.
Thank you, it's exciting schemes and I welcome it. Couple of things to say. This council is committed to being carbon neutral by 2030 and supporting the wider community to be carbon neutral by 2050. By investing now to generate a secure supply of clean energy, we can sell it to the market rates local businesses, help them meet their environmental obligations. The Borough Council only contributes a small amount to the overall volume of carbon emissions across the area, but we can set an example to show what can be achieved. No one can solve the problem in isolation, and by pursuing clean energy at Peel, which can be accessed by local businesses, we can help our community take a notable step in the right direction.
Conditions?
On top of that, I'd like to recommend the recommendations as follows. 1, welcome progress on the business case. And 2, the Cabinet receives a further reports in due course about the range of options available to progress the project.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, back to you on this. I think it's obviously still an early stage on this. Still a lot more work to be done. But I think with those recommendations, we can hopefully have a report back later in the year with some updates on this. Can you talk to comments? Anything from your portfolio, David, to say? Oh, no, happy with everything. Thank you. With the recommendations, as Steve pointed out, we do have a confidential item related to some of the details on the business case later, which we'll do under item 17. But Steve, with the recommendation, all agreed? Thank you. Our next item is item 8, delivery of electric vehicle charging through the County Council of Local Government Electric Vehicle Infrastructure by funding. And Steve again.
Yes, this is the Borough Council working with the County Council. The County Council utilises this Levi funding, and they put various different new sites for themselves. So Windsor Street, Newcastle Street, the Trade Silverdale, King Street, Wall Street, Newchapel Road, and the Pump Track at Kidsgrove. In addition to this, and this is working with the county to bring this back. I might also add that the new car park, the Castle Car Park, has actually got 22 EV charging points in it as well. So again, this is working with the County Council, and I absolutely support it, and I recommend it to them.
David.
Oh, it's good news. It's the way forward. We need more electric charging points. And if the council car parks can do this, then yeah, it definitely gets a vote from me.
Yes, I welcome this too. I think it's playing our part in the wider county plans for electric vehicle charging. Of course, they've got the money from the government through the Levi to coordinate it, not to deliver it, to actually coordinate it. But we play our part here in delivering extra EV charging points, as we said, in the Newcastle car park and other sites that have been pointed out by Steve. And I think you do see now more electric vehicles on the road. I certainly see that. You can tell now by the green number plates side. So, more technical is happening. So we need to have more charging points. We do see them popping up all over the place now on petrol filling stations and supermarket car parks. It's happening organically anyway. The idea through the Levi Fund is there's some structure and coordination around it. We can see that now with the delivery of this part of the project here within Newcastle. So the recommendations are as before, as Steve's pointed out, all agreed. The next item, item 9, is the urban tree planting strategy phase 6, and David is leading on this.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. The purpose of the report is to seek the approval of Cabinet to progress the phase 6 of tree planting under the urban tree planting strategy, and to seek approval to expand the strategy to include tree planting in selected sites in our rural villages. The urban tree planting strategy contributes to the council's sustainable environment strategy, with a particular focus on carbon sequestration and offsetting as part of the council's journey to be net carbon zero. The urban tree planting strategy contributes to the good management of the Borough Council's tree stock and appropriate decision making on tree planting proposals. And the urban tree planting strategy contributes to the council's nature recovery plans to protect the urban green spaces for our future generations. In 2.3 of the report, you can see the 7 urban wards that have been selected for the phase 6 of the Borough Council tree planting strategy. These include 2.53 hectares in Bradwell, 1.3 hectares in Wolstanton, and 10.41 hectares in Thistlebury. There is a dedicated webpage on the council website with information on the benefits of tree planting. There will be a 6-week consultation based during September and October 2024 at the ward members in Bradwell, Newcastle and Mountcock, Crackley and Red Street, Wolstanton, Westbury Park, Northwood and Westlands and Thistlebury will be given an information pack with letters and maps to share with residents in their areas. It is hoped we will get as many responses from residents in all the wards that have been selected for the phase 6 of the tree planting strategy. Now, in the recommendation section of the report, the service director for the neighbourhood delivery to seek bids for the work to be done. To help with this, the service director will bid for and accept external grant funding and secure any additional donations if they have been offered. And as I said earlier, in phase 6 of the urban planting tree strategy, it is proposed for the first time to include some rural areas. I'd like to take this point to thank Councillor Fear, the portfolio holder for strategic planning, for including the urban tree planting strategy in our emerging local plan. In the local plan, section 6, climate and renewable energy, there is a policy CRE1. In section 6.9, we read the plan says we should develop proposals that include green spaces and tree planting measures, including maintenance, that will improve the environment through carbon capture. And in section 6.10, the plan sets schemes that help to deliver the council's carbon capture areas and urban tree planting strategy to facilitate carbon capture will be supported. So the recommendation later are in section 3 of the report. I submit them to Cabinet for discussion, debate and hopefully approval. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Really support you on this. We're on to our phase 6, as you say, of the tree planting. And when I've been out and about over the last month or so, people are really appreciating the tree planting that Borough's done on its land. And remember those 60 sites. We're talking about the local plan at full council next Wednesday. The previous iteration of the local plan and the SLARs and housing lists, a lot of those sites have been on there for house building. And the council now only has 1 site in the local plan because we've protected 60 sites, a bit more than 60 now if you start to include some of the rural areas. Then we need to drop the title urban now and just call it Borough Tree Planting Strategy, because we need to integrate now rural, particularly in the villages, some of the very small plots of land that we do own in the villages. A lot of it is parish owned and also council owned. I think it's also work with our parishes and the villages to ensure that they are protecting some of their land and opening that up for some tree planting for their benefits as well. I think the plans we've got here, again, phase 6 in the urban areas really back that we are pushing on and planting more trees. And also, I think David Towington will also protecting some areas from potential travel incursions by planting trees in areas where travellers have got onto land in the past. So really pleased with this. Also pleased that when we bring the local plan next Wednesday, key to that and in there is the protection of these these carbon capture areas in the Borough tree planting strategy is aiding that, is to protect those for the long term and commit again to do that, I think, Cabinet today. And we'll be talking about that more next Wednesday when we're talking about protecting green space. This Cabinet and this Council has done more than any other council since I've been on the council for 20 years to protect green spaces that it owns, of course. Cannot influence the land that others own, and that's why they come forward in the local plan. But these 60 sites, which are many of them now are benefiting from tree planting and more will in future years, are our green legacy for the borough and our green ones, particularly in the urban areas. A lot is said about green belt, but I think local green spaces which aren't in the green belt are just as important as green belt as well, and they are the green ones which urban residents of the borough rely on as well. And also when we expand that to villages inside the village envelopes, there is of course a need for development, but also there's a need to protect some of those green spaces, and we're going to do that, particularly by our borough, as we say, we'll plant trees on and other environmental improvements as well, where we've put flower meadows in a couple of our sites, and we need to expand that part of this policy as well. We're all about just planting trees. It's also about leaving grass meadows and also wildflower planting. I had the pleasure of going to Winchester Drive last week and to see the strip of wildflowers that are there, really in their second year, looking really good, and a real credit to the borough on that secondary grass verge behind now. And are really welcomed by the residents as well. And some of the colours, the blues and the reds and the whites that are coming through on planting and the flowers, and we're going to do more of that on our green spaces as well as plant trees. So a series of recommendations there, which Davis has moved. Quite happy to endorse those. Any other comments from cabinet members?
Thanks very much. Just to say, basically, I agree with you entirely, Simon, that perhaps we should call this now Borough tree planting strategy. I think the fact we're into phase 6 shows that we are very committed to doing this. And I think, when we get through all the hopping and popping about other things, one good reason for this is just that the planting of trees makes the environment more pleasant. The borough is a nicer place to be in. And I think also, I've very much welcomed the rural side of this, because people sort of almost take it for granted that there's a nice sort of ambience out there in the rural areas. That too needs to be watched over and looked after. So it's nice to see that we are showing the same degree of concentration out there as we are in the urban areas. But in general, I just feel better when I see trees, so I very much welcome it.
Thank you, Andy. So recommendations have been introduced by David, all agreed. Great. Thank you. That brings us to our next item, which is in the same vein really, which is item 10 even, which is the local nature recovery strategy, our part in the county-wide strategy as the borough, and David can introduce that now.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. The local nature recovery strategy in today's cabinet agenda is to update the cabinet on the Staffordshire and Stoke Nature Recovery Strategy Partnership. Under the Environment Act 2021, there is a requirement for local nature recovery strategies to be developed across England. Each local nature recovery strategy will agree priorities for nature recovery and propose actions in locations where it would make a particular contribution to achieving those priorities. So the Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs has appointed 48 responsible authorities. This is mainly County Council. In our area, Staffordshire County Council has been appointed as the responsible authority, and Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council, as well as 9 other local authorities, are supporting authorities. So developing the local nature recovery strategy will also take account of work being carried out by the Staffordshire Wildlife Trust in relation to countrywide habitat mapping. This includes identifying conservation sites, local nature reserves, local wildlife sites, and irreplaceable habitats. So, Leader and fellow cabinet members, this is really, really exciting, and I'm really, really happy to bring this to cabinet today. Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council leads the way in the county with our tree planting and biodiversity plan, our grassland management plan, and we recently published our sustainable environment strategy and delivery plan. It is therefore very, very important that the Borough Council to engage with the formulation of this local nature recovery strategy. This will ensure that the local nature recovery strategy properly reflects the existing nature conservation habitats in the borough, but also the opportunities that exist to further enhance the biodiversity in our area. So the recommendations are in section 3.1 and 3.2 to seek member endorsement of the local nature recovery strategy work, including forthcoming public engagements and consultations, and to agree that the Borough Council fully engages with the exercise of developing a local nature recovery strategy and contributes to its subsequent implementation. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I think obviously, as you pointed out, with the enthusiasm which you've just done about this, I think it's really good news. I think the point I'd like to make out is we do include one of the key partners around the table. It's only 1.45. Sorry, it talks about landowners. It's our farming community, because obviously we need to continue to produce food, and locally produced food is the best for the environment and for travelling hundreds of miles to transport food. So they're a key part of this, along with the Wildlife Trust. Often some tensions there, but I think overall the farming community want to work with us on this. We accept that obviously the farming community have an important role in food production and that food security we need as well. So that range of bodies that are involved, the council is a key part of that, and we're working with Staffordshire County Council pretty closely on taking it forward. We do have a website for the local nature recovery strategy, which is staffsandstoke.lnrs.co.uk, which has got the information on the first consultations, which will one's already kicked off, but others kicking off as well. So that's always good to look at. And again, when we talk about our land, we are planting trees on it, we're looking to increase nature on our own land. Also, with the local nature recovery strategy, we also look to other landowners, whether they be the county council, whether they be the health authorities, whether they be education, whether they be even businesses and business parks. All of them can play their part in our efforts to bring back nature locally. And I really endorse this paper that you brought today, David, and over to any of the comments. Not seeing any. Okay, so David, you've moved the recommendations, all agreed. Okay, that brings us to item 11, which is the productivity plan 24-25. There's a document which the previous government now requested us to do, but I think it's a really good document for us to publicise, which I think really brings together the good work we've been doing on the council for the last few years, particularly on the back of the peer review, which is really a really good peer review we got, and also follow-up peer review earlier in this year. So this document just points out some of the baselines where we're coming from as a council, at the area, about the performance of the council, and the context in which we're delivering services and trying to transform those services, whether that's through one council, whether that's through the economic regeneration that we're doing, whether that's through the sustainable programmes which David has already just been talking about. And all of that captured in here in a very tight 7-page document, which will be published on our website as requested by the previous government in the DLOG formation for local government. My only request would be to the new government is not to take this too far into rigid inspections. I think we do have the peer reviews, which have been talking up as well, which I think are a good route to take the temperature on how councils are performing. We've seen league tables beginning to appear recently. We're in the top 50 of councils in the country on that league table that was published earlier in the year. I think we can go too far. I remember under the previous Labour government, there was a lot of stringence and inspections that really took many months to prepare for, and then many months to recover from, that we weren't getting on with actually doing the job of delivering services. So I think light touch is needed. I think the process that the previous government was going to get going down with these productivity plans, with the peer reviews and topping those up, was a sensible way to go forward. And also using the local government association to deliver those, and not an outside inspection regime, which would cost millions of pounds and would bog us down from delivering the services which we need to do. So I think with accepting this productivity plan, I would also make a plea to our incoming government not to override the inspection regime which they may be considering bringing in. And of course, we will fight against that through our roles through local government and the LGA, and also through our role for the Leaders Board with our fellow councils in Staffordshire. So productivity plan is there, and recommendation is we do publish on our website. All agreed. Thank you. That then moves us now to item 12, which is the procurement of a contact centre system. I'm leading on this one. I think it's really good that we're moving forward on this. I think the also the future proofing of this using latest technology and integrating that in there, whether that is through the better use of interactive voice responsing on phone calls, whether that's the use of chat and voice bots on our website, and also the integration into Microsoft Teams so that any member can pick up a customer service inquiry and also see how it's being progressed and where it's got to, and then any member can track that it's being delivered, and importantly that the message gets back to the customer resident that's actually contacted us in the first place. So I think it puts us in a good position to sort of revolutionise the way we deal with customer services. We have, through our One Council programme over the last couple of years, made a lot of changes to our customer services and made it more relevant and more focused. This will help us through this new contact centre system to really take that to the next stage. So we have to approve the procurement of an award of a 5-year contract with the contact centre, the corporate communication solution, and delegated authority to the chief executive and myself to move that forward. I won't touch on any questions or comments on this, but if there isn't, you can move forward. No, not seeing any. Okay, so the revolution in customer services will start soon. If we all agree, this all agreed. Thank you. Okay, that moves us to the next item, which is the item 13, reward of the short form service contract to the consortium of architectural service providers related to DFGs and Jill's legal rights one.
Good evening. The council has legal duty to administer disabled facilities grants. I've got to say in full. When you say DFGs, I know a lot of people get lost in abbreviations. And for the benefits of residents needing adaptations to their homes, the council expects to complete approximately 15 extensions per year. Extensions may be required typically for wheelchair users who need ground floor accommodation or children with severe behavioural disabilities who need specific room layout and equipment to ensure they can be safe and independent at home. We do not have a commissioned service in place for architects, and architectural services are required to complete adaptations that require significant alterations or extensions. If you look at 1.1, it outlines what services are required. Tendering process was undertaken to establish a consortium of contractors, and 3 local architectural service providers were identified who met the required specification. Extensions can take over a year from referral to completion, and as part of our continuous improvement programme, it is suggested that the short form services contract be for a period of 2 years, with the option to extend for a further 2 years. The skills are not available in-house and would be cost prohibitive to have in-house based on the number of extensions received annually. The provision of this service will be paid for via fees from the DFG grant monies. I support the recommendation to delegate authority to the Deputy Chief Executive in consultation with myself to award short form service contracts as proposed, unless the Cabinet accept or approve the recommendation.
Thank you, Jill. I think it's really important that we have this in place to ensure we get those disabled facility grants out there and the work's done so that people can benefit from adaptations and stuff that will make their life easier. So anything we can do, I think we have to revamp the system. We've got a new provider. We've also got rid of the backlog as well. I think it's really a credit to the team, and I thank the team for the work they've done on this within the council, and also the contractors working for us. And the next stage is to move down this route and endorse what you said, and we'll move the recommendations with you. Any other comments on this? Not seeing them. Okay, thank you. All agreed. That brings us now to our next item, which is the forward plan. As we do, we go page by page. The first 3 pages cover the July meeting, which we've just about to complete. But then on the next page, on 15, we look at items. We look at our next meeting in September. We've got the medium-term financial strategy, which will kick off the budget, the official budget setting process through Cabinet this year. And we've also got Q1 finance and performance report. We've also got awarding the contract for digital infrastructure, and we've also got our annual report. which we'll move on to council after. Over the page, still in September, we've got the Wallace Quarry update, of course, and statutory-wide planning policies, and a borough plan examination costs and funding, and then also the North Staffordshire Building Control Partnership. And then on the other page, last September item there is the Bradford Dingle Recreation Facilities. Then we've got two items for October at the moment, which is the Animal Welfare Charter and another one is the Quarry update. In October, we will read the local plan, the forward plan. Yeah, self-care. That brings us to the next item, which is urgent business. Don't have any urgent items. But item 16 is the disclosure of empty information. We do have our confidential item on the Peel Sustainable Solar Energy business case. So I resolved it couldn't be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of that report, which is likely that there will be disclosure of sensitive information as defined by the Paradise and Local 1972. All agreed? And we will turn off the webcam.